Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stewart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. And I think we have Larry with us. Larry, are you on?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? I had a real hard time getting into the show tonight.
I figured I was getting ready to dial you up in case you couldn't get in. Why don't we start with this war in the Ukraine possibility, because that could lead to world war real quick. What's the latest on that? Here's my headline that I have. War within 48 hours, Ukraine, Syria, or possibly both. Then he says Americans are urged to prepare with emergency food, water, heat, medicines, and fuel for generators. No other mass media outlet is informing the public about what may happen in the staggering developments that could immerse us in war. This is from Hal Turner's site. But we do know that there's a lot to this because of the possible false flag situation. What's the latest that you have on this?
Well, the latest information also is coming out of Israeli News Live. You know, they're parroting, I guess you could say, some of the same data, warnings on the Ukraine and Syria. And, the news is out there. The problem is you're just not going to hear it. That's the problem anymore. They're trying to shut up, basically, or get the conservative media of any kind to stop talking. As a matter of fact, what's odd is, I watch Fox Business Channel a lot because they tell more about world news than you can even hear on Fox News. Matter of fact, they'll tell you on Fox Business tonight information that you can't hear. And what's interesting, I was listening to Lou Dobbs just a little earlier before this show, and he was wondering why mainstream media or even the government of the United States was not taking a lot of concern with Russian bombers, not only in Venezuela now, but also flying missions in the Caribbean just to our southern borders. Sure, we're just absolutely...
Yeah, well, I guess my answer would be they're all in it together. It's a stage play. The Bible clearly has laid out the theater, and all we got to do is read it and understand biblical prophecy. And again, I can go back to, I suppose, to Psalm 2. The kings and the rulers of the entire earth are in this together. It doesn't necessarily mean they're conscious of it. Some of them definitely are, but we've got a being called Satan who is running this whole thing, and the Lord himself has said, I'll pick your delusions. You don't want to be obedient, so here's some delusions for you. So I think that's probably what is going on and why they aren't. And Lou would have every reason to wonder why there is no concern about it. I mean, look at what Kennedy did with the Cuban crisis. Well, Venezuela is only a skip and a jump from Cuba, and Venezuela, likewise, is a communist, country, as you well know. And in fact, I guess from what information I can gather, you probably have more information on it than I do, of the infiltration of the Chinese and the Russians into Venezuela. So, yeah, I don't know, Larry. This thing doesn't look good. It looks like we're being encircled, and they're going to pull the plug basically all over the world at the same time to make this thing work, particularly here in America. And I want to get to Barry Roffman's latest Bible code. And by the way, folks, you really need to pay attention to this. This one is very, very... How do I say? What do you think, Larry? I think it's very ominous. When you put it together with the biblical prophecies of Jeremiah, Daniel, and Isaiah, yeah, this is very ominous, and it parallels exactly what they say. What do you think?
Well, it's a shame, Stewart, that even our treasonous leaders can't know a little bit of history or a little bit of biblical history, and how that when enough is enough and the bucket overflows, if you will, with total corruption of a nation, yes, that what lines up to remove that corruption most generally is your enemies, and they're given favor, and they come in and take you over, and we just don't have any leaders that smart. Do you know the only person I've heard on television anywhere that is warned of the Monroe Doctrine is Trump? And he's, if you will, I'll use this term, trumpeting warnings daily, but you just hear nothing but mockery.
Yeah, it's incredible what they're doing to him, and I'm as you know, I'm very suspicious of all of them, but boy, he has been bombasted with stuff even before he was, when he first announced he was going to run. They came after him, and deep state cannot. How do I word this? They can't have somebody like Trump in there. This is a war between two concepts of globalism, and one is communism, pure and simple, and it involves the United Nations. And when I get into Barry saying I think the UN is involved in this, even though it doesn't use that terminology, the UN is definitely involved in this wall. They're the ones who told Trump, you will not have a wall. You will allow all these people into your nation, whether you like it or not. And that's that new compact that the UN is trying to shove down everybody's throat. And, of course, the UN is a communist operation. And, again, I don't think the American people, and I certainly don't hear it on any mainstream media, including Fox now, that what we're involved with here is a communist coup against our country. And they're about ready to take it down. And maybe Trump stands in the way of this, at least temporarily. But the way things are going, I mean, they are investigating everything they can investigate. And I think as soon as they get into office, the Democrats are going to impeach him. And that it alone could cause a revolution if they try that. But the Democrats are insane. And their hatred for Trump supersedes anything. And, of course, they're tying a noose around their own necks, and they don't even know it. They're that stupid. But I agree with you. I don't think they care one way or the other. They hate the American people. That's obvious. And I don't know why anybody voted for him. Stupid is as stupid does, I guess, is the only way you can word that one. It's just incredible. But here's part of this Hal Turner thing. He says he's got a recording of former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland outlining the U.S. efforts to meddle in the Ukrainian government, deciding which puppets would be installed to run that country in our favor and against Russia. Direct evidence that we in the USA caused the troubles that may lead to the war this weekend. Now, he's claiming that in 48 hours it would be either tomorrow night or Saturday that this would start. And that parallels precisely what Habakkuk says, that we go in and we meddle in all these nations. And, the cryptic comment of the Lord, I don't know how cryptic it is, he says, do you think those all around the world, I hope our leaders are listening to some of this. Here's what God says to all of you people who are involved in all of this stuff, CIA, NSA, doesn't matter. This is what God says directly to you people. Do you think that the people you are meddling with and destroying are not going to come and take you out? They are. This is the stupidity of our leaders. I mean, the Bible's very blunt about Babylon the Great and its leaders. God says their tables are full of vomit. That's not a compliment, people. That's a condemnation. The tables of our leaders are full of vomit. They're corrupt to the point where the only method God has of correcting this is the total destruction of the United States of America via nuclear attack. A sneak nuclear attack when nobody's looking, nobody is expecting it to happen. Read your scriptures. It's all in there. And the Bible code that Barry picked out, boy, I'll tell you what, that goes right into it, because I think what he's talking about here, let's get into that now. This is amazing to me. What have you got on? You want to read the words he's come up with?
It's incredibly interesting because I had talked to Barry one day, and I knew he was considering trying to run a code with the wall, Trump's wall, if you will, and
yes.
What that might entail. And so Barry ran one on December the 12th, 2018, and he titled it as The Obamas, the Wall, and the Coming Civil War, because apparently it all ties together. And I'll just read these real quick. There's 7 of them in the first code, and in the second one there's 2. And I'll read all of this and then let you comment. Number 1, civil. Number 2, Army, service of the war. 3, Michelle. Number 4, B. Obama. Number 5, President. Number 6, Wall. Number 7, Schumer. And then in the second code, just I guess you could say we'll give honorable mention to. Number 1, Black Power. Number 2, B. Obama. And Stewart, if you just consider the history of Bush and Obama's 16 years, this is where we are.
Yep. And unfortunately, I think the American people just voted Obama back in through the Democrats. But again, stupid is as stupid does. I mean, how do you vote for somebody who told you, I'm going to raise your taxes, I'm going to open up the border and flood it with all these criminals, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, everything bad for the American people, and yet they voted for it. Well, you voted for your own suicide. I mean, what else can you say to the American people and to its leaders? You've got a rope around your neck, you're standing on a chair, and the Lord is very busily getting out his saw. And this is where we're at. But, my comment here is this is very, very interesting to me. Let me read this and interrupt anywhere you want. Civil war, army, implies insurrection, of course. And evidently the word wall plays a major role in this, which brings in the fight between Trump, Pelosi, and Schumer, which could have been well staged just to show the American people the stark difference between the two sides. Maybe that's what Trump wanted. He seemed very, very comfortable, I thought, with the whole thing. It was kind of funny to watch. That Obama and Michelle and Schumer all show. This is just my take on it, and Barry said he's going to run some more. And by the way, before I forget, we're going to have Barry on Monday night. So for sure, tune in. And I've got the link up on Lakegate Blogger, Night Shadows Radio, over to his website, arccode.com. And I know you got it up too, right, Larry? So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they can reach you at larrywtaylor.org, so you can find it there too. People, you really need to get into this thing. I'm sure the Lord is behind maybe Barry's, interest suddenly in all of this. We are coming up on a time when it appears that the nation itself may break up. Something has to occur that causes a division. Your friend over there in Norway, what was his name? I can't think of it right now.
Johansson.
Yeah, he also saw the breakup of the United States into various regions. Okay, so why would the governors, ruler against ruler, as Jeremiah talks about, Babylon breaking up into pieces, ruler against ruler, authority against authority, something really drastic has to occur for the governors of various states getting together and breaking relationship with Washington. Something really big has to occur, and I think maybe Barry's got this in the Bible codes. This is what's going to happen. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, Obama is running things behind the scenes, and somehow he's going to be brought back. Now, a lot of people, and myself included, have witnessed or had a vision about Obama coming back into power. Now, in order for that to happen, Trump somehow has to be removed. And the removal may well be over this wall situation. But we really don't know who's going to win, do we? It could be Obama that wins, but it could be Trump that wins for a little while. I happen to believe that Daniel chapter 7 and the fourth beast power, it's the United Nations. I don't think there's any question about it. The world has never seen such a power, and that's exactly what Daniel says. It's different than any other thing that the world has ever seen before. And the United Nations is not a state. It's not a nation. It's simply an organization that usurps the sovereignties of the nations by treaty power. It gets the nations to sign treaties that give over the power. This may have something to do with this wall that Barry found, because a wall, in my mind, brings in the United Nations. The UN is deeply embedded into this wall situation. As you know, they've sent UN people south of the border. And they commanded President Trump to open the borders, to let all these people in. That's that immigration compact that the UN is trying to get signed by all the nations of the world, which eliminates all national borders and therefore eliminates really nations. So that may be what the wall is. And, of course, Obama's a deep communist. Michelle is. They all are. Republican and Democrat. We've got so many deep state operatives. What's his name? Mitch McConnell is one of them. There's no difference between Republicans and Democrats. There probably never was, as far as I could see. We always march to this global government. Trump wants a global government where the nations retain their sovereignty and make up trade deals. The UN wants global government by usurping all the nations and taking over and becoming a dictator. I think Daniel 7 says the United Nations wins. And if Trump, for whatever reason, were to declare martial law over trouble on the wall, and they get rid of Trump, Obama comes in, he would never give back the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. What do you think?
Oh, I think you're exactly right. I think if somehow Obama gets into power, he could care less about the Constitution. And matter of fact, I don't know where the Bushes are, particularly at the present time, but if you'll remember when George Bush, what was it, 41, I guess, was president, you remember what he said, it's just a piece of paper. It means nothing,
Yep.
So the Bushes
and the
didn't
New
care
World
for the
Order.
Constitution. Yeah, and Obama doesn't care for the Constitution. And as you said already, the UN is heavily involved in this immigration thing. This is I don't know why, Stewart, people can't figure out this is a plan.
Oh, yes. Yeah, this has been planned out for a long, long time. They're just running the script. And the people of the world are the victims of this script. And, I just don't think well, the Lord has his own mind about America and the people of America, and evidently he's not too favorable towards us right now. I mean, the Christian church is just as corrupt as deep state is corrupt. And I don't have any use for any of them. And, you know, now we're watching the rise of dominionism. We're going to take back America, and we're going to do this for the world, and we got to straighten everything out. Well, hopefully there would be a revival. I'd be all for that, but I'm very curious as to what kind of a revival we're actually looking at. And again, does Trump win, or does Obama win, or does Trump win temporarily and they do take out some of these deep state people? That's possible. It's very possible, but I don't see it, because the only people that have been put away are people who are connected in one way or another with Trump. Hillary Clinton's still walking around. All these people are still walking around. Why is that? Why can't Congress appoint, if they want to have investigation after investigation, to investigate the investigators and investigate the investigators who are investigating? And we want an answer in 25 years, and we'd like to have prison sentences handed out in another 50. This is the attitude of the people of Congress. They don't get anything done. But again, that's what Isaiah, the prophet, says. The whole thing, the government of America, Babylon, becomes so corrupted and so ineffectual they can't even operate anymore. And if somebody like Obama were to come in and try and grab power, if they got rid of Trump, even if they tried to impeach him, I think that would cause some problems. I can't quite figure out, though, with Barry's wall exactly how that's going to work, unless they totally breach everything, and then Schumer and Pelosi would be blamed for stopping the wall. And that could cause a revolution in and of itself. And have you heard any more about those caravans?
Yeah, they're still coming, but you know, I had just an awful thought just cross my mind.
Yes.
You know, I hate to talk about it, but here we are. You talked about Schumer and Pelosi. Do you know that just as soon as Pelosi takes, you know, her her oath and takes her gavel in the Speaker of the House, she's third in line for the presidency?
Yes. Oh, this could go really bad south. And like the book of Revelation says, a lady rides the beast. I always thought it might be Hillary, but who knows? It might be more literal than we realize. And, of course, the book of Revelation unlocks Daniel and who these powers really are. And it's fascinating how all this is going together. And now we're getting Bible codes that absolutely verify it all, which it would, because the Lord is not going to encode something that would contradict his word. So this is fascinating what's been found. Anyway, don't forget, we're going to have Barry on, and he's going to do more research on it, and that's going to be a very fascinating show, and his take on it, because he's an expert in this, and I'm not. And I'm just mouthing off as to what I think that could mean, because the wall appears to be almost central to this deal with Barack and Michelle. So, and I have long thought, you know, I had that vision, Larry, of I was teaching biblical prophecy, and then walked Barack, big smile. And I said, you know, you're Lucifer, don't you? And he said, yes, I know, big smile. So, and other people have had all kinds of visions about Barack coming back into power. Here's something else we should talk about. Turkish army begins shelling U.S.-backed Kurds in Syria. What in the world is going on? Now we have NATO fighting NATO?
Well, that's what it appears to be, and of course Hal Turner posted this. I checked it out, and it appears from Debka that some of this information is is coming out that Turkey is trying to make a turn, towards other than NATO forces, and you've said for all, you've said a number of years, Stewart, that Turkey is going to betray NATO. Sooner or later, they're going to do it.
Yep, they have to. It's biblical.
Yeah, that's what we seem to be seeing at the moment. Of course, they've been trying to do it for some time, but it's coming out in the open now. Yeah,
and this is going to get very, very fascinating. And then we've got what's going on with Israel on the border of Lebanon. It sounds to me like all of this is going to be timed right around the Christmas holidays or before.
Yeah.
Any more news on that? I mean, I know they're squaring off on the border there for Israel.
They're squaring off on both sides, the Lebanese border and the Israeli side of the border. And by the way, just as this is getting heated up, you remember me telling you that depth files were reporting intelligence that said that in Lebanon they were going to begin a terrorist movement there, similar to the one in Gaza, and this is supposed to erupt at the same time. Well, guess what's happening? We're suddenly now, while Israel's focusing on the Lebanese border and Hezbollah, now Hamas has begun terror attacks, and the latest out of Depth File today is the IDF is reporting Hamas behind the Oprah and Barkin terror attacks, and said IDF places Ramallah in lockdown and blockades Nablus. So here we are, we're tying Israel down again in the south.
Yeah, Israel's in for a beating. They've got to go into this time of Jacob's trouble. And, I guess they call it whatever, tribulation period, whatever you want to call it. But it's just too bad to watch all this taking shape because, the prophecies are there. That's the one thing I don't understand about these rich guys that are running all this. 2,500 years ago, the prophets all said what they were going to do. Now they're doing it, and, it's right under their face, and they still can't figure it out. But then Daniel, the prophet, said, the wicked will never understand. They can't. It's impossible for them to figure this thing out. So it has to be done. And the Lord makes sure that, he said, I have a plan, and I'm going to do that plan, whether anybody likes it or not. So I guess it's kind of stupid to go to war against your own creator. But it's too bad that the rich men are getting away with what they're getting away with, and that the people, like in America, they're sitting here twiddling their thumbs. It's like they don't care at all and can't figure out at all what's happening to them. And when this thing breaks loose, it's going to be, a little too late. Any final word? Would maybe do something tomorrow if something breaks.
Well, the most interesting thing is Florida Marquis, and you're aware of him, is now posting that Iranian warships are arriving off Venezuela, and that the Iranians and Russians and Chinese are locked in into Venezuela, and also the Chinese have been hooked and linked now to the sonic attacks in Cuba, so the Chinese are in Cuba. We're pretty much surrounded, and we're not.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, I can now. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me, Stewart?
Yeah, go ahead and talk.
Yeah, I was just saying Florida Marquis is warning about Iranian warships off Venezuela, Russian bombers in Venezuela. You've got the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians down there, and the Chinese and Russians moving into Cuba now. We're surrounded, and we're not being told.
Yep, well, that's deep state, and that's why I don't trust anybody in office. I don't care who their name is or whatever. I just don't trust them. The Lord said, trust God, don't trust mankind. And people they're going to learn that lesson the very hard way, I guess. Anyway, thanks a lot, Larry, for coming on. Don't forget, we're going to have Barry on Monday night at 7. And good night, everyone. Take care.